We're going to take a minute to look back over the trigonometry we've seen so far to help get ready for our upcoming quiz. So we started with our special right triangles, and we have two types, 45, 45, 90 and 30, 60, 90. The 45, 45, 90 is also isosceles because we have two congruent angles, so we're going to have two congruent sides. And the relationship is that the legs are the same, which is why it's isosceles, and to go from legs to hypotenuse, you multiply by root 2. To go from hypotenuse to leg, you divide by root 2. And then a 30, 60, 90 is scalene, and so we classify our legs as short, long, and hypotenuse. So the short leg is always across from the 30, and that's the one we base everything on. So if I call the short leg x, to go from short to hypotenuse, we double it. So it's 2x, and go from short to long, we multiply by root 3. The short leg is always the one you want, so if you're not given the short leg, that's always the first one you need to find. We use these special right triangles to fill in our unit circle. Right, so our unit circle has all of those angles. So in our first quadrant, we have the 30 and the 60 and the 45 from our special right triangles. And then those values just repeat all the way around the circle. Right, this is our unit circle, so it's centered at 0, 0, and it's a radius of 1. Right, so remember we made our triangles, or we dropped them down, filled in our sides, and we got root 3 over 2, 1/2, and then root 2 over 2. And then based on where you are is where the x is positive and negative. And remember, all students take calculus. So the top right quadrant, your quadrant 1, all the trig functions are positive. And then in the quadrant 2, just sine is positive. In quadrant 3, tangent is positive. And in quadrant 4, cosine is positive. Remember, it's an x comma y is cosine comma sine. So if I wanted to know the cosine of 150 degrees, I find 150, and I want the x value. So cosine of 150, using our unit circle, is negative root 3 over 2. All right, tangent is sine divided by cosine. So if I wanted tangent of negative 30 degrees, I'm going to go down 30, which is over here at 330, and I want to do sine divided by cosine. So I have negative 1/2 divided by root 3 over 2. Right? When I divide fractions, I multiply by the reciprocal, so negative 1/2 times 2 over root 3. The 2's cancel, and I get negative 1 over root 3. Don't want a radical on the bottom, so we multiply by root 3 over root 3, and then that becomes just root 3 over 3. All right, so cosine is x, sine is y, and tangent is sine divided by cosine. Then we also looked at our different trig functions. We have our 3 that we've seen before, right? And we remember those with SOHCAHTOA. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. Right? And that's all in reference to the sides of your triangle. Then we have cosecant, secant, and cotangent. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse, and then cosecant is the opposite of that, so it's hypotenuse over opposite. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and secant is opposite that, so it's hypotenuse over adjacent. And then tangent is opposite over adjacent, and cotangent is the reverse of that, so it's adjacent over hypotenuse. So if I give you a triangle, and I tell you that it is 3, 4, 5, and I want to work with this angle. Sine of that angle is opposite, 4 over hypotenuse 5. Cosecant, we just flip it, 5 over 4. Cosine would be adjacent 3 over hypotenuse 5. Secant, we flip it, so 5 over 3. And then tangent, opposite 4 over adjacent 3. And then for cotangent, you squeeze it somewhere, we flip it, so 3 over 4.